Hey, what's going on, guys? So today we're talking about the best selling cards under $5 or less at the Yu-Gi-Oh! Penny Stock Market Watch. Legendary Duelist Season 3, Legendary Duelist, Duels from the Deep, and of course, Power of the Elements. Power of the Elements comes out next week, so that's definitely going to flood this. One of the better sets we've gotten in a while. Without further ado, though, let's jump into it. I think we talked about this card list last week. I know we talked about Dragosto Paleo. I know that. I think this was also on here. Just as, I mean, obviously, it's a potential target. I believe it could be made in tier elements, but also it just it turns super poly into insane value, right? And the fact is that this is a 245. This person bought 17 at 199. I would have bought that many too. Shout out to whoever this person is that made that purchase. But yeah, we're looking at like 249, 250, $3. You only need to have one of them. When your opponent special summons a monster from their extra deck while you control this card, negate the summon and then destroy the monster. If your opponent controls a monster with a predaplant counter, you can special summon this card from your graveyard. So if you're running multiple predaplants, you can bring this guy out. This effect's not really super relevant to my knowledge if you're using it as a super poly target. But how is this deck? 1 second. This doesn't get talked about. Who talks about this deck? No one talks about this deck. Because there was one thing when it was like, and this might be a dated reference, but like Brilliant Fusion and Gem Knights. Like, Gem Knights have a lot of great cards, but none of their cards are as good as Brilliant Fusion. It's almost like Spellbooks, too, because we talk about like Spellbook of Judgment. I'm trying to think of, like, a recent example of a card. Maybe like Christian Halka-Fibrax. Like, Christians have no cards that are on the level of Halka-Fibrax, except for Halka-Fibrax, right? But Predaplants do, and Predaplants actually already have a card that's banned. This card is limited as well, but it's always for the same reason. Like, this card did not get limited because Predaplants were just, like, tearing through the TCG. This card got limited because what the card says and what the card was able to search. But how is this deck? I meant that in a couple of ways, because I know that, yeah, wow. Is this deck good? Because it's got to be budget. Let's do this. Let's actually take it a step further and leave the TCG player and head on over to eBay. I don't know the first thing about Predaplants, by the way, but I am looking here. Predaplant deck core. I know this. I know that they interact with Predaplant counters, and I know that they have Snatch Steal. I believe they have Snatch Steal effects. They obviously have Monster Effect Negation. They have a lot of different things that they do super duper well. Okay, this is $105. That feels like a lot. Is this good though? Like, I don't know if what I'm looking at here is good. But I will say this: $105. Okay, this is $100. This is $189. I'm pretty confident this deck is not that good. Description. Oh, here it goes. Monster cards, a lot of Predaplant cards, Lone Fire, Fallen of Allbass, Branded Fusion, Ultra. That's why. Is that why they think they can sell it for more? Because they're running the branded cards. Like, is that what Predaplants just is? It's not ever. It in and of itself is not a good deck, but it's a great engine to be ran with other decks. I don't know. I was gonna say that, like, if you wanted a budget deck to play, here's Predaplants, but it's not looking like it's the move. Every time I will say this. This is my interaction with Predaplants. As you guys can tell, I don't really know how to play the deck very well, but I've also never lost to it. So take that information with however you'd like as we move forward down. Deep Sea Diva doing Deep Sea Diva things. Dark Ruler No More is starting to climb. We talk about that card a lot, though. We're probably going to talk about it again when it goes over $3. But as I continue, Cynet mining is on the rise. I'm surprised this didn't take a dip down. Because Marinus might not be that good, because there's a lot of setup with Marinus, and making Winda during your turn kind of screws over Marinus in a lot of decks, but really Marinus especially. But Cynet mining is also really just good. just like generically really good. It searches. I mean, look at the cards that it also purchased. Like none of these are. All of these are Salomon great cards except Lady Debug and Parallel Exceed. Parallel Exceed can't even be searched off of this card, but it's still one of the cards because it's just there are a lot of Cybers cards. There's Attic Nistra, obviously. There's Code Talkers. There's Salomon Great. There is Libromancers, and there's also Mariness. So this card, I have a playset because I obviously have played Salomon Great. I wouldn't own more than a playset. I don't think it's going to get excruciatingly much higher in value, and it's a very easy reprint target because if they release any cyber strategy in a structure deck, this card will probably just be slid in there because it's never been in a structure deck. It's a big thing for sets like this too, like just like a maximum gold set. But all copies of Cynet Mining are up in value, which is really solid to see. But I could see it getting a reprint soon. I guess it just got this reprint, so maybe. I'll say that. Say definitely maybe on Cynet Mining going up in value. Especially the older versions like the 2020 and the Dual Overload version. But hey, this one too. The thing with it, I don't really like rares, but I do like gold rares. So, it's just I feel like gold rares are just better looking than regular rares, but they still don't look. It looks like a common, but you can't read the words. That's how I feel about rares. But nonetheless, there's a rare Deep Sea Diva for $2 if you want one. Let's take a look at this card actually. 1 second. I'm just curious because I didn't realize. I figured all versions of Deep Sea Diva would be really high up, but it's possible that there's just so many versions of this card. Yeah, 6 copies of Deep Sea Diva, super rares. OTS is taken off. Like, if these are my choices, I'd just pick the common. That's just how I feel. You guys let me know. Do you guys like... What is your least favorite rarity? That's what I would like to know. Because my least favorite rarity is actually rare. I would literally rather have this version of this card instead of this version of this card. But you guys can let me know in the comments down below. A lot of cards that we've seen here before. Rank 2 because it's rank 2. Anti-spell because it's anti-spell. Ghost Bell because of tier elements is starting to make its way downtown. Oh, it's been going down. What? Wow, it took a nosedive. Oh my goodness gracious. But this is the Dual Devastator version. Right. So, another card that I'd watch out for, though, as far as a reprint's concerned. If they haven't already announced one already. I feel like they may have, and that's what caused... Because I can't think of what else would have caused this random dip on July 23rd. Because we know Power of the Elements is coming out. We know that this card, Ghost Bell, is going to be very good, or at least solid, against that deck because of the interactions with the graveyard. So why is it that this card is losing value 2 weeks before it's going to be a better hand trap? DD Crow is also really solid. DD Crow is a little bit cheaper. There's also Skull... I thought about looking up Skullmeister, but I'm not going to do it. There's also Skullmeister to look out as well. It's barely a penny stock too, but this is definitely a card I could see getting a reprint sometime soon. Because that's what Konami does. Like, Konami, most of the time, cards that end up in structure decks are cards that are like... a lot of times they're like $3 to $4 cards that kind of work with the archetype, kind of don't. And if we look at a card like Ghost Bell, it's a zombie, it's an earth, so any structure deck like that, and it could just get a random reprint not in a structure deck as well. I heard about this card from MCO40, Mischiefs of the Gnomes. It's to counter Splight, obviously. My biggest issue is that it's a trap card. I don't really love cards that specifically go against archetypes, but they're trap cards. Because like that means that this is only good going first against Splight. And if I'm main decking it, I just lose because there's so many decks that don't care about this card, right? So that means that if I lose turn duel number 1 to Splight. I side this end going first. This is the reason I win duel number 2. What am I going to do with duel number 3? Am I just going to try to play the long game and stall it out to where I can get this card back up? I don't know. I noticed that this card was in Machine Reactor. Oh, this. Is this really? This can't actually be a $50 structure deck. What? Heck yeah. So this structure deck is really oh man, oh okay, I know, yeah, that's right. I forgot this was in here. But this is what I was talking about. I was just talking about Ghost Bell. I'm glad that I saw this because this is proof that Konami really does just be throwing hand traps into things like that. Because there's really nothing else that gives this deck value other than obviously that it's Ancient Gears and now Mischief of the Gnomes. But if we look back at this card, as far as whether or not, you know, is it fear of missing out? Is it FOMO? Or is it a good time still? Because it's not just Splight. Sword Soul kind of. Virtual World kind of. Gets hurt by it because they are synchro-based strategies. That's what this card is for. Like, it's for synchro-based strategies. It's for Xyz-based strategies. You could also use it... I guess, okay, I forgot it's got this graveyard effect. So you could, I think I saw that too. I think I saw someone playing Foolish Burial Goods, sending this and banishing it. Feels like a lot, but Tier Elements it's interesting though. I just thought of this card's interaction in Tier Elements. Tier Elements might be able to main deck this card, but like I said, like Flow and Reach doesn't care, Marinette doesn't care. Any Adventurer dot deck does not care. Like Adventurer PK, Adventurer Dragon Link, Adventurer ABC. None of those decks really care. Like I know Dragon Link kind of relies a lot on the level 4 and Synchro 8s, but they also Link Summon, and that's the biggest thing, is that this card does nothing to decks that Link Summon, does nothing to decks that Tribute Summon, does nothing to decks that Fusion Summon. It kind of hurts Ritual Summoning base decks, but it doesn't hurt the best Ritual Summoning base deck, which is Drytron. And this is what I was talking about. I don't remember how long ago I mentioned this on a video. Is like cards like these, you just have to be very careful. It was like this, like Token Collector, Hainwata, however you say it, is another example of a card that's like very, 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 very good. Like 7 varies against a very specific archetype. And a lot of times players will put a card like this in their side deck because the best deck of the format gets hard countered by this, like what we saw with Token Collector. But a lot of times, especially in bigger tournaments, you just don't run into it. And so now you have 3 cards that are just sitting there. And like, to be honest, I mean, Stygian Dirge, let's just look at this card too. Is it Stygian Dirge? I always thought it was Stygian Dirge, but then I heard MCole40 say it was Stygian Dirge. This is another card. It's a little different though. It only has 1 printing. Oh my goodness, this isn't a penny stock. I guess it's kind of a penny stock, right? But like this card's another example of does the exact same thing, right? It only hurts your opponent though. It doesn't affect your cards in hand. Because that's the interesting thing also about Mischief of the Gnomes that I was looking at. I was just thinking about is that you could reduce a level 5 monster in your hand, and make it level 4 and summon it out. I don't know what cards you could do that on, but there are cards that you could do that with for sure. So to make a short story long, you never want to buy a card when it's here. Literally, this is just the highest it's been in a long time. It's got printings from Secrets of the Eternity and, like I just said, the structure deck. Both commons. And commons are dangerous, too, to invest in because, I mean, we kind of saw it with Token Collector. So that's why Token Collector never really... Like, Token Collector shot up in value. Actually, let's see where that card's at. Because I'd assume with Sword Soul not being as big of a deal, this card should have calmed down. Yeah, exactly. Right. Now, this card does have 3 printings, and this is a rare printing. But if you look at Token Collector, for example, if we go like, let's go a full year back. This is like right around Sword Soul time. It never really, it peaked here at about $5. And the jump it made it to about 250, so you gained about you about doubled your money, so that's not too terrible. But the thing is this line right here, especially right here, right? So now we're at 350. Once Sword Soul's actually been released now, and it's actually everywhere. Like, this card was like $4 or $5 just the whole time. Like, this was a random peak. And like I said in the video on my page, like, a card is not worth what it's worth on TCG. It's worth however much you can sell it for. And the thing is with Mischief of the Gnomes and Token Collector, the reason I'm talking, that's why I'm talking about Token Collectors, because Token Collector is essentially Mischief of the Gnomes. Like, it's very, 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 very good. 7 berries against one specific archetype. Or whatever archetype that gets hard, like whatever token spam archetype, right? And for this one, it's an Xyz spam or synchro spam based deck. Yeah, like, you could bump into, like I said, it kind of hurts Sword Soul, kind of hurts Virtual World. You could play like Sword Soul, Virtual World, Splight, Virtual World, right? For some reason, that's your 5. And you're just always siding Mischief of the Gnome. It's crazy. But then, you could also face Tier Elements, which don't get hurt by this. Floandereese, which doesn't get hurt by this. Salamangreat, which kind of gets hurt by this, but not really. Attic-Nister, those are just 4 completely off the rip. And then Tier Elements again, and those are your 5, and you never sided Mischief of the Gnomes, right? Which is why, and that, on top of the fact that it's a common, I don't think this card's going to gain an insane amount of value. The only thing that I do like is the secondary effect, right? Because this essentially turns it off from being a trap card, and you could Foolish Burial Goods it, but you could also use it in Tier Elements. And that's where it starts to get a little bit interesting, is that Tier Elements could mill this card. And if you're playing Tier Elements, you're probably thinking, there's only one deck that can beat my deck. That's Blight. And if you're running this card, especially in the side deck, I could see that. So, like, for Tier Element players specifically, probably should pick this up. But, like, if you're just trying to get a quick buck, I could see it, because we did just see Token Collector. It first jumped up to $250 and it got all the way up to $5. Mischief of the Gnome could moves like that. But it could also randomly get a reprint in the Dark World structure deck or a different structure deck or something like that. I don't know. So just be on the lookout for that. Brander in red, Ronin Tonin. Freezing Chain structure deck. 1 second. I'm going to do a separate video on this card. I don't want to talk about this card too much right now. I just wanted to see. Okay, so this is still worth nothing at all. If you've never played with new ice barriers, it's not old. It's not as bad as old ice barriers. If Toad gets banned, which it definitely possibly could, this deck is pretty bad. But even if it doesn't get banned, the deck is bad. But it's better than it used to be. Should be on the lookout for that. That's all I had to say about that. Patchwork is going down in value. All right, let's get it going with Mathmech. I haven't taken too much time to look into this deck. I know it's been a while for a long time. Another cyberspace archetype, though. So that's really solid. A lot of support for cybers cards. And if we look at, if we look at Mathmech, it will probably still, if I can just do that. Okay, it will probably still be a budget-based strategy after it gets its new support. If I can type out how it is, because not every card in every set is a chase card, and Konami does do a decent job. Like, there's a reason why, like Tri Brigade, Virtual World, like, they have a bunch of decks. I know, like, well, they have the Tim reprintings, but no, like, Konami does do a good job of making some decks. Like, Eldritch is pretty budget, Salamangreat is pretty budget, like, Attic-Nister is not the most expensive deck either. Right, and if we look at, we'll play this game again, even though it did not work out well last time. Mathmech deck on eBay, because whenever I get full decks, I like to go on eBay, and I think I've mentioned that before, but this is just, I keep doing Mathmech. Okay, here we go. This is it right here. Okay, we're just gonna do that. It's gonna know what I'm saying. There you go. Auto corrected it. Okay, so let's try this again. Alright. So this is about 85 bucks. You're looking at Desires, Cynet Mining's Caldwise in here. Full extra deck. No access code, unfortunately. You would like to run access code in this deck. You're getting a lot of support. It's about 85 bucks. That's really solid, especially in today's market. Like, that's a really solid option. So I could definitely see. I'll have to take a further look into Mathmech to see if it really is a solid budget option. Because I will say this. I'm really only interested to see how good of the deck is, and you guys can let me know in those comments down below. Because like I've said before, like I used to at one point, I think know like just about like what every deck does, but it's really hard. There's a lot of decks. Like I gotta know what like Ice Barriers did, what Ice Barriers used to look like. You know, like so the older decks like Reborn Tengu, Plant Synchro. But speaking of plants, I gotta know Sylvan, Sun Avalon. Just all of the jazz, and there's a lot of decks now in Yu-Gi-Oh, and I don't really know what Mathmech does, so I don't want to give a big. It comes with Kaiju, that's pretty solid. If it comes with Slumber, that's even better. Does not. You hate to see it, but it's still not bad. This is still not bad value for $85 if this deck is like tier 2. If this deck is tier 2, and that's the biggest thing. So, whether or not this deck is actually really good and will actually get a lot better with its new support, that we're gonna have to wait and see. But it is 100% a budget strategy, right? And so I wouldn't, if like, okay, like I say I was at locals, yeah, this is its most expensive card. Let's say I was at locals and someone was like, hey, I just built Mathmech, just as a fun little mess around deck. That I like. I'm trying to see what its most expensive card does. That's why I clicked on this card. But I would say that's pretty solid. This is a pretty solid deck to invest in. But you could run the risk of having just like another set of 40 cards that are sleeved that don't do a whole lot, right? So just be very careful because, yes, Mathmech is very budget, but so is this deck. Okay, Nordic, right? This is also a very budget deck. And it's not very good. No, it is not. But let me know what you guys think in those comments down below. What cards, $5 or less, are you interested in? Let me know in those comments down below. Make sure you guys click that like button to show your support for the channel. Subscribe for even more content. But most importantly of all, have a good day.